I got to tell you, we're going to be talking about the CNN thing through much of the day because what they did is almost unthinkable. I mean, it is almost unthinkable what they did. Joining us now, Carl Higbie. He's got a great new podcast, Liberty and Cocktails, and he's a former Navy SEAL. He served our country admirably. He's been involved in the Trump effort for a very long time in the America First agenda. Carl, great to have you.
Thanks for having me back on.
Carl, the CNN thing is almost unfathomable to me.
You know what? It should be unfathomable, but it's not. It's par for the course. Now, I said this, I was never asked back onto CNN after Kate Baldwin and I, about 2 years ago, got into an argument where I questioned her anonymous source for a. And you can YouTube Kate Baldwin, Carl Higbie clash. It is the funniest thing you've ever seen. I'm calm, cool, collective, polite on a panel of 4 verse 1, and they're talking about, well, the anonymous sources said Trump's a dirtbag. And I said, you know what, name those sources because they're not credible. Sure enough, 24 hours later, I was 100% correct. CNN was 100% wrong again. And after that, CNN never had me back because they couldn't stand being questioned. What happened to the two-source rule that most journalists play by, where you confirm whatever information with an additional source? Now they're taking these anonymous sources, the anonymous stories, they're unverified, and it's costing them their credibility. I'm going to make this prediction right here. When Trump wins a second term, I do believe that the Turner AT&T mega merger is going to separate from CNN, and CNN's going to go down the tube.
Why?
Because they're not a credible news source. They have gone so far. They're completely ideological. They're no longer a credible news source. They pay to be in airports to get what little ratings they have to barely keep up, and not even keep up with reruns of SpongeBob SquarePants. And I think that they're a liability for the whole Turner system, the whole AT&T merger. I think they're a huge liability, and I believe that eventually they're going to be dropped and they're going to be forced to be self-sustaining, and their ideological whatever mission is not going to be enough to sustain advertisers because they're already dropping like stones. And I think I think Trump will have beaten CNN in 4 years.
I go on CNN. It's my network. They're good people. All the people, Carl, that I interact with there have been just great to me for a very long time. You know, probably have been going on there for about a 3-year period now. And the hosts, except Anderson Cooper, I don't know him. I've met him, but I don't know him. I've never had a conversation with him. But all the other people that I go on with, from Kate Baldwin, who you mentioned, to Carol Costello on Headline News, to Don, to Chris Cuomo, to John King in the afternoon, to the makeup
like
people.
Cuomo and
They're
Don
great
Lemon,
people.
I'm very cordial with. Don and I text back and forth. Nice guy. We disagree on damn near everything.
Don's a great guy.
Super nice guy.
Great guy. Salt of the earth. And they have good people there. But I tell you, what they're doing now with this fake news story on Lanny Davis, and the fact that they just don't own up to it, and I know their executives decided to, I guess, follow the Trump strategy and double down. I mean, you can't double down on a complete lie. And This is what happened. I mean, this story was never true, and Lanny Davis put it out there to get money. CNN fell for it, or I get that. I mean, you should have a double source. You don't. And I get running it because it is his lawyer, and probably they figured Cohen said that to him. But then Lanny Davis backed off on it because it's not true. Immediately, they should have backed off on the story. Instead, they've tripled down. And so now all they're doing is continuing to push out a complete news fabrication. And remember, when that story broke, it was like breaking news. This is the end of Trump. Impeachment coming next week. We have a source who says President Trump was told ahead of time about this meeting and personally sanctioned it. Blah, blah, blah. All false. Lie.
Exactly, all false. And you know, they always have some anonymous source that is telling them something when the people who are coming out against it were the actual people in the room, senior cabinet officials and things like that. You know, my problem with CNN is, look, you know what, you want to report an agenda, fine, that's okay, but at least get the facts right and tell the whole story. Like, what I'd be more impressed with CNN if they just wouldn't tell parts of the story rather than lie about it. And my problem, too, is, CNN went after me. They ran 36 primetime segments against me and some statements I made 6 years ago. And they didn't. These are people that I know personally. Not one of them called me for my side of the story. They didn't. Not one of them. They didn't want to come on and have me come on and debate them. They just wanted to tell their side, hammer away with no opposing. That's not journalism.
Well, there is no journalism here. They're not after news or the truth. I mean, when CNN started, it was a cable news network. I mean, you turned it on to get news 24 hours a day. It was a great idea. Ted Turner started it. And, remember the first Iraq war? I forget what it was called. Was that Desert Storm, right? Remember the first one where Bernard Shaw was on the roof and the bombs were going off? I mean, in the U.S., we had never seen coverage like that, and it was fascinating. And, I mean, you got a bird's eye view of what was going on. And so, CNN mattered to bring you news in America. Now it's basically a propaganda network, worse than MSNBC. I don't know. Look, they've got to have a business.
Titan of news.
It was. They have to have a business strategy here, Carl. I mean, every company has one. And I know their new CEO that came from NBC is not dumb. And so he's got to have a strategy. They somehow must have done enough surveys to figure out that in order for them to be viable, they have to be anti-Trump 100% of the time. And somehow that's going to bring them a viewership they need in order to sell X percentage of advertising based on their daily and nightly viewership. So they have to have a model in the back room that's backing this. But I tell you what, it might be short-term gain, but it's long-term pain, because I don't know where you go after this. I mean, what are they going to do if the Republicans hold the House, pick up 5 seats in the Senate? What are they going to do?
And that's the thing is, and anytime they have somebody who makes a valid point, they suspend them and they kick them off the network, like they did Paris Bernard, where he was debating Phil Mudd, and miraculously the very next day there's sexual misconduct allegations, and anybody I've talked to that knows this guy says that's not. I mean, like anybody who, even if they hire them, they come on and they try to destroy them if they make a decent point. It's remarkable. Here's some free advice, CNN. You want to start gaining credibility and viewership back? Have opposing opinions on. Opposing opinions are okay. The free exchange of ideas and free thought that used to be protected under the First Amendment is a good thing.
It's a sad state of affairs. One of my listeners just texted in. Nick from Virginia Beach, Virginia, says, Rush Limbaugh said yesterday CNN are not retracting to protect Woodward, of Woodward and Bernstein fame, as you know, Carl Woodward on CNN often now. And he says that he lied too, but they want to protect his reputation. Well, there's protecting your reputation, then there's just lying. I mean, this is like whoever gave this story, the story is false, right?
Yeah.
Trump never approved no meeting. Cohen's retracted it. Lanny Davis retracted it. So the only reputation to protect here is CNN. I mean, who cares about Woodward?
They're running their PR machine over there needs to get fired. I mean, this is
That's horrible.
You didn't see this one coming?
Yeah. All they had to do was say, look, we took what we thought was a reliable source and went with it, and we're sorry, and we're retracting the story, as many other news outlets did. It's not the end of the world, okay? People make mistakes. As long as you own up to it, do a retraction. I mean, any of us that, like me, that published a major daily newspaper in America or was an editor, you screw up, you run a retraction. Hey, we screwed up. Sorry for the inconvenience. Go to this link. That's it. No big deal. Yeah. Everybody moves on. But, they want to double down. And part of it, Carl, is they want the story to be true so bad, right? That's really what's at the crux, because CNN wants the story to be true. They want to keep the rumor going. That's the real reason I think they stood behind it.
Yeah. It's insane. Just, you know what? I'd have more respect if you come out and be like, look, we screwed up, my bad. I've done that. Like, look, everybody makes mistakes. I get it. Like, I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Just come out and say, our bad. We screwed up. We got ahead of the news. We got excited, whatever it was. And we printed the wrong story. Okay. And you know what? In 1 hour, the news cycle will change because President Trump will solve some other problem that's been haunting America for 50 years. And they'll have that to report on or hate him for or whatever it is.
Unbelievable, Carl. It's like we've all had enough of this. and I don't know where it ends. We're with Carl Higbie, and Carl is the purveyor of the new podcast, Liberty and Cocktails. You can go to libertyandcocktails.podbean.com, which I'm on right now, and you can get the latest podcasts from Carl. And one of the ones that I loved the best was from August 23rd. How deep is the corruption in the swamp? Carl asks. Joy Villa and I go through every player that is against Team MAGA. I laughed at that. I got to tell you, Carl, I laughed so hard. I put it on last night in my car. See, this is the thing you can do with a podcast, right? I'm driving from point A to point B. I just put up libertyandcocktails.podbean.com. I click on it. I got it playing right through my phone, right on my car radio, and I'm laughing my tail off going down 395. Carl, good job on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. The corruption is remarkably deep, and I go through the players one by one by one. I spent hours and hours and hours researching this. Everybody, all four people at the top of this investigation, from Rod Rosenstein to Mueller, and then you have Comey, and you have all these people, they've all been involved with each other for like 20 years. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. When you start tying everything back, Carl, it is crazy. Okay. Where does CNN end up here? I mean, you kind of think they're going to separate from ATT and tank, but in the short term, with this story, where do they go?
First off, most of their ratings are not going to go any lower because the ratings they do have are the few airports that they pay to be in. Second off, I think that you're going to have the anti-Trump, the Antifa, and the diehard people who are so anti-establishment with this administration. They're going to watch them no matter what because they're like, yeah, tell them, you get them. But you know what? To be honest, like they've lost all credibility, and it's mostly because their hatred for Trump, they lost. They went to war with Trump, and just like everybody else who went to war with this president, they lost.
Wow. Carl, comment on the primary victories yesterday. Let's start with Martha McSally, Arizona. What did you think?
I don't have a lot of skin in that race. You had a couple good folks there. I'm not surprised. Arpaio didn't win. It was a three-way race over there. What I'm really excited about is Ron DeSantis. I've known Ron for a few years now. We're both veterans. He was a Bronze Star recipient for his service. I mean, he's congressman. He was a rock star. I'm super happy about him winning. I think it's a phenomenal win. Of course, it's another win up for President Trump's endorsed candidate, and also Rick Scott. I think Rick Scott. I know him not very well, but he's a great guy. I mean, he made tons of money in the healthcare industry, and just like, you know what, I'll throw my hat in the ring and be willing to get punched in the face every day by the media. I think those are some great victories, and it's going to be phenomenal. Like Ron DeSantis will be the next governor of Florida.
I think so. Carl Higbie, I'm out of time. I want to thank you for being with us today. You got to go to his podcast, man. It's a lot of fun. libertyandcocktails.podbean.com. That's all you have to do. And as I say, you can get it right on your phone and just click on whatever one you want, put it on through your radio, and you can get it 24/7, 365, any day. It comes out with one every day. And once you kind of get into it, you kind of get hooked on it. Then you want to see, well, what podcast does he have today? So it's kind of fun. Carl, you're doing a good job of that. Look, doing a podcast every day is not easy, right?
Yeah, well, thank you. And DC Examiner is now carrying it on their website.
Yes, I mean, it takes time. You got to build up an audience.
DC Chronicle, my bad.
DC Chronicle. But look, you spend a lot of time. It's obvious when you go to your podcast, you've spent a lot of time on it. So, and it is entertaining, and it is informative and interesting. So thank you for that. Liberty and Cocktails with Carl Higbie.podbean.com. Carl, thanks for being with us.